Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Great Lakes Disc YouTube channel. I'm Brian Papa Wolf Frawley, and I'm excited to bring you a great guest today. This is one of the dudes that I've looked up to since I've gotten into disc golf. He is one of the true OGs when it comes to marketing, branding, and talking about our great game. Give it up for Mr. Bobby Brown. Did you clap? I hope you did. Well, anyway, stay tuned to the end to learn how to win this cool disc from Clash Discs. Now, without further ado, Mr. Bobby Brown. Hello and welcome back to the Great Lakes Disc YouTube channel. Thanks again for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm honored to have one of my heroes in the game, one of the guys that I like to model my attitude off of, at least, Mr. Bobby Brown, here in the studio. Thanks for joining us today.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here. I'm flattered when you reached out to be on the show, and I'm excited to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, part of what we are doing here at Great Lakes Disc is trying to give people a little bit more behind the scenes as far as other people in the industry, how we got to where we are, a little bit of history, a little bit of future, and you seem like the right type to do that specifically for the brand that you represent. But I don't want to get too far ahead in your story. Why don't you give us your disc golf origin story, if you will?
Well, it's actually interesting. So, gosh, back in 2009-ish, I think it was around that time, I had a buddy of mine that was putting together, his dad was actually going to build two disc golf courses on his land in Pawhuska, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And he was super excited about it. He had talked to some people at the PDGA, and they were going to bring a national tour event out there, and they called it the Green Country Open. Well, they had reached out to me and said, "Hey, they know I did stuff with websites and video and digital and or photography." And they said, "Hey, can you help us promote it and build it?" And I'm like, "Sure." I'd never heard of disc golf or whatever. I was like, "Sure, I'll help. Yeah, I'll help you out." So I showed up one time and I took some pictures and created a little commercial for Twisted Flyer. Joe Rotan, if you know Joe Rotan from
Yeah.
Innova, yeah. So I worked with him, made some commercials, and they loved it. And then I was like, okay, maybe I need to try this disc golf thing. It seems kind of cool. And so a buddy of mine, Jeremy Taylor, said, "Hey, let's go play some disc golf. Let's go this weekend." And I said, "Well, I'm going to go run a 10K at the zoo. And maybe after that," he's like, "Perfect. There's a course right out there at the park where the zoo is at." So after running a 10K, we went and played disc golf. And so the first time I threw it, I was of course exhausted, and I thought this was the stupidest thing. It just goes up in the air and comes right back down. So but I started playing a little bit more, a little bit better, got a little bit better. And of course, we all know this, how it starts. You make one nice putt, one good throw, and you're like, "Oh, this is amazing. I'm so good at this. Let me do this more and more and more." So then I got more involved with the media end of it and helped again, did some more video work and some more photography work with the Green Country Open. And then I did, or the PDGA came down when the actual event happened. And that's when I met Paul Macbeth, Paul Uleberry, Ken Climo, Dave Felberg. I met Eric McCabe, a few of the other big names. And of course, they were just young kids, just, doing what they love doing, playing disc golf. And I thought, wow, I can get my feet wet in media and I can do it through disc golf. So that's how it kind of all started. And in fact, I will tell you this, I will argue that I had the first live disc golf broadcast
Oh,
because
all right.
okay, so okay, I know that some other guys had some live, but I think I did. So it was a Green Country Open. And what I had done is at the time I had drove an expedition. So I had the back of my expedition, the seats folded down. I had a desktop computer in there that had an electrical cord plugged up to the guy's house. And I was probably 30, 40 feet away. And I had hooked up to his Wi-Fi, and I had my camera set up, and I had holes 17 and 18. And then in the far away, I could zoom in. I think I was like a hole 9. And I was broadcasting live disc golf. Had 200 people viewing. I had somebody from Australia go, "Oh my God, I'm watching live disc golf." And I thought, this is it. I want to do this for the rest of my life. So that's kind of my origin story.
Yeah, I mean that would hook me too. Like that's just to be a pioneer and something like that, and to be one of the first people to bring what we all love and consume nowadays. That's just awesome. the way that we have shaped live broadcast now versus back in the beginning has been a big stretch. Whenever I see people complain about like today's stuff, you got to remember like less than 10 years
Yeah.
ago we were like struggling. I remember Bowling Green Ams like 13 or 12 with Terry filming and Simon and it breaking up like constantly. And I just
Yes.
remember like, this is still worth it. This is still worth it. It's great. I can see a couple shots. I love it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's super exciting. And thank you for that legwork and that foundation. And that foundation led you through a lot of really interesting things. You work with a lot of different companies, but you are now at Clash Disc, correct?
Yes, Class Disc, and my role has kind of shifted over the last year or two. So Class had reached out. I had left Dynamic Discs to move closer to be closer to my family in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and started doing freelance social media. And I was doing some social media work for Disc Golf Strong, for Whale Sacks, for Idio Sports, and then a couple of gyms here in town, local. And Class had reached out and said, "Hey, we were looking for somebody to help us with our social media. Are you interested?" So I had a meeting with them and I thought, okay, Class this new disc golf manufacturer. Sure, I'll help them with some social media. And just started creating posts for them. They would send me videos. They would send me different pictures that they took at the warehouse. And I just, scheduled, did the normal social media manager type thing. But then as I got to know them a little bit more, I started realizing that, they are more than just a new company that's putting out some plastic. This guy, Timo, the owner, has some serious knowledge of plastic. Now he's not a disc golfer. They discovered disc
Right.
golf during the pandemic, but he had some connections with some manufacturing and plastic, and he was putting out some good quality stuff. And so I started saying, "Hey, I can help you maybe make some connections." They're like, "Hey, do you know anybody at Disc Golf Pro Tour?" I was like, "Yeah, I know a couple of people." So I
Yeah.
kind of made some connections that way they could get some ads there. And so that kind of rolled into more of a helping them bridge the gap between what they're trying to do in Finland over to the US. And then it kind of morphed into more of, well, they were talking about they have a butt load of misprints they didn't know what to do with. And I was like, send me the misprints. I'll pay you this much money. I'll try to sell them online. So they sent me a bunch of misprints and I started selling those online. And then I was like, "Well, could I be a store for you?" And they're like, "Sure." And so I started buying their discs and started selling them. And then I thought, "You guys need some distribution. Let's get you some distribution." And they had already worked with a couple of stores on distribution, but I thought, well, I can kind of be distribution for the middle of the United States. So now I'm an online retailer and a distributor for Class Disc. So the roles kind of shifted a little bit from working for them for working for myself, but still helping them grow.
Yeah, I remember meeting the Clash crew at the 2023 All Stars event and the
Mhm.
industry conference. And to me, like not knowing a lot about Clash, just seeing very little marketing ahead of time, like to have the amount of people attending that conference on behalf of Clash was awesome. You had your big group of Innova people, your big group of Discraft people,
Mhm.
and then really like Clash was the most represented after that. And it was great getting to talk to yourself, obviously, but like a lot of the other members who some of them was their first time in the States, things like that. It was cool to kind of get their story of how they got into the game as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's super cool. And what a great segue to this disc. So this disc right here, for those of you that
Ah,
are
yes.
listening, sorry, but this is a Bon Appetit Clash disc that was given to us at that concert or at that conference. Sorry, not a concert. Well, it kind of was a concert. But we'll be giving that away at the end. So stay
Oh,
tuned on
nice.
how to win that. Um, so let's pretend that I know nothing. I'm a noob. I'm walking into Great Lakes Disc. What should I know about Clash discs?
The big thing you should know about Clash Disc is that, like I said before, it's a different approach than what I've seen. In other words, usually what you're seeing now, you're kind of seeing a little bit different, but usually what you saw was a bunch of disc golfers that have been in the game for a while say, "Hey, let's figure out how to make a disc. Let's figure out, we've been throwing Innovas and Discraft, but we can make our own discs." And they start from there. They started where he didn't do anything with disc golf. His kids were throwing disc golf, and they just didn't understand during the pandemic why they couldn't get any more discs. Like everybody was selling out. And so
Yeah.
he thought, well, let me see if I can try to make a disc. So he took some discs to some people he knew that worked for the Nokia plant. So remember when Nokia was the big cell phone everybody wanted,
Yeah,
the
for sure.
plastic? Yeah, so these people had worked for Nokia and they knew how to manipulate plastic. And he showed them the disc, and they're like, "Oh, sure, we'll plug that information into our software we have, and we'll create you a disc." And they did. They created
That's
some
awesome.
discs, and the plastic was amazing. And so Timu started showing some professionals that play disc golf in Finland, and we all know how over there disc golf is kind of on a different level. I mean, we take it serious, but they take it serious over there on the professional
Yeah.
level. And so, and one of the guys they showed was Rauli, or as his American name we like to say is Randy. And Randy was like, "This feels amazing, but these discs are crap." And so he was like, "Let me help you figure out how to make a great disc." So he kind of assisted them and helped them. And of course, that's when they came out their first disc that they released. So what I find interesting is that they're looking at it from the standpoint of the plastic and the manufacturing. Let's make great discs and become disc golf company rather than disc golfers becoming a disc golf company, if that makes sense. And
Yeah,
so
totally.
and then and then of course, I don't know if your viewers or listeners are have seen the release of the tone plastic or the tone production process. This is something that's been in the works for the last maybe a year or so, just kind of research and development. They're trying to figure out how to stand out from other disc golf companies as far as the way they manufacture it. And they believe they found it with tone. And they've released a few. I wish I had it on me now, but I don't get it until next week. But I'm getting some sent to me next week so I can check it out and kind of make some content around it. But I am super excited because so far I've heard it feels fantastic. And when they first showed me the pictures, my reaction was, "Is this like an overmold?" And his reaction was better grip, better process. And of course, he's speaking broken English because he doesn't speak English. And he said, "Just overall, much better." And I was like, "All right, I'm excited for this." So I'm excited for that. So that's kind of what you need to know about them, I guess, to answer your question, is that their approach is slightly different. They have access to very good quality plastic over in Finland, and that's basically what you get when you get a class disc.
Yeah, so this tone that you're speaking of that you're getting next week, and I can't wait to see in person. Uh, from what I understand from the press release, from the social media posts, it is two different polymers, a top and a bottom, correct?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then that top is softer and the bottom is harder, or what's the story?
That's kind of what they've been telling me too. Again, I haven't had one in my hand to feel it, so I'm not 100%. I want to get that feel for it. But yes, some have equated it to, of course, we're all familiar with the term overmold, of course,
Mhm.
from MVP discs. They've had a lot of success with the overmold process. And then Innova had a couple. Did they have two, or did they just have the one overmold type
But
disc?
I believe
The
they had two.
Nova? Was it
The
two? Okay,
no
two.
Nova and the Atlas, I believe.
Okay, yes. And then of course, Latitude 64 had kind of the overmold. They kind of did some research and development,
Yeah,
figured it
Gateway
out.
back in the day too.
That's right. Gateway had some as well.
The
Um,
Assassin back in the day.
so yeah, so it was it's kind of an undermold, but it's just the bringing together two different plastics together to create one product.
Yeah, well, that's going to be exciting, for a brand the size of Clash to get the kind of the buzz that it got when the day it was announced, on top of the fact that, some major pros announced, where they were going on the same day, almost the same time. It was great to see still the amount of interest shown by the community. I'm all for innovation in our sport, and this might be something new and exciting, or it might not be, but I'm definitely interested to see the difference, to touch it. I love a soft top, I like a firm bottom, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out, especially if they go outside of just that one mold or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, it's super exciting. Like I said, I'm excited to get the discs in my hand to get a really good feel for them. And my understanding is that eventually, now I don't know, they haven't really explained to me exactly. I don't know if like every mold that you see now will become tone, because I don't know if it'll work for every mold out there. I mean, that's the thing, is that what people don't quite understand is that and maybe they do, but it seems that not quite as many people understand is that it's not simply just saying, okay, make a berry like that. Okay, make it's
Yeah.
there's such a the mold process and the injection machines and all that. Sometimes it doesn't work. That's why a lot of times when you had different discs and you're saying, oh, make that in a base plastic. Let's see what it does, and it turns out to be junk. It's just
Right.
that's just the way plastic is. That's just the way the process is. So I'm not sure if every mold they have now will be tone, or we'll just see eventually see like brand new molds, and then that will be in the tone plastics.
Yeah, so I didn't quite know if the tone was the disc or the tone was the plastic, so that's ignorance on my part, but that's great to hear that we might see different varieties in that for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, the lineup from Clash is pretty expansive for a relatively new company. There's plenty of mold options. If you were going to give one mold to a new player, what would the mold be that you would choose?
Oh gosh. I would say if it's a beginner level guy that's like more like beginner intermediate, I would say the soda. The soda
Okay.
is just such a great controllable fairway driver, great for the woods because you can control the shot. For my arm, I can get it to turn up just a bit, but still kind of a nice slow fade. So a lot of the straight shots that I've got some trees that I want to maneuver around, that's what I'm grabbing is the soda. But if you're a little more higher skill level, I would say something more like the salt, or
Okay.
if I was just literally introducing them to class this, then I would say something like the berry is a
Yeah.
very good multiple use mid range for sure. Now if you're somebody that's like advanced level and you're excited about distance drivers, then I'd say the wild honey or the vanilla. Um, in
Yeah.
my mind, for me on my side, those are hard to keep in stock. I Every time I do a restock order with class, I'm always ordered double of those because those are super popular distance drivers.
Yeah, so the cookie is one of our favorites in the store, and then like
Mm.
you said, the berry sells a ton in our store. So that's a great lineup that you mentioned. So appreciate that. You've been around the game for a while. Obviously, you've got your eggs in the Clash basket right now. So how big do you think Clash can get, or what do you think the ceiling for a company like Clash is?
I mean, I know it sounds cliche to say the sky's it's a cliche to say the sky's the limit, but I really feel like they have the potential to be one of the new players in town to make a big splash. I mean, they already have multiple machines. Like I said before, there's been other companies that start making discs and they may have one machine pumping stuff out. They've got multiple machines pumping out already. Uh, they have a system set up where they have actually two prototype machines. In other words, for some companies, it may take them a month or so to create a prototype, where it can take Class Disc a couple weeks to go from a prototype to a working model. So they have that part figured out. There are some things I've talked to them about that, I mean, to be transparent, I've been frustrated because I'm like, we need to do this, we should do this. And they're like, yes, we know, but in time. And so it's almost like they've got the production part down, but they don't have the disc golf part down as far as
Yeah.
becoming a company and getting out there. So, I mean, they've obviously made a lot of great decisions. Otherwise, we wouldn't be knowing about them like we do now. But they've got some growing pains to go through. But once they get past all that, I believe they have the potential to be like one of the top manufacturers out there.
Well, that's exciting stuff. I personally really enjoy the way they've named their discs. It's nice not to see numbers. That's just something that's easier for me as a guy that's running around the store trying to grab different discs for people. So that's just convenient for me. So thank you for making it all about me. Um, as we transition away from your role with Clash and kind of talk about you, the OG content creator,
Yeah.
you've done almost everything. You're active on all the different platforms. You do a lot of different stuff. Can you remember like a specific cut, commercial, interview,
Oh.
whatever, one that sticks out in your mind as your favorite?
I think my favorite project that I ever worked on was when well, I've got two actually. I would have to say the Disc Golf Answer Man podcast. I have to give big shout out to Eric McCabe. Early on in my disc golf media career, I had the idea of doing a podcast, and at the time, I think there was maybe 10, 12, maybe 10, 12 podcasts. And so I was like, we obviously need it.
Yeah.
And I told Eric, I was like, man, I don't want to just sit around and talk about disc golf. I want to answer people's questions. I think people want to learn more about disc golf. So let's do like a Q&A, like ask the pro. And I'll just be kind of the beginner guy that might answer a few questions, but I'm kind of the guy that talks and you're the guy that gives the advice. And he was like, yeah, let's give it a try. And that thing grew so fast and so great. It was such a fun thing. And of course, it evolved as I got hired by Dynamic Discs, and that was such a fun project to do. So I would say that's one of the big standouts that I love. The other one that I think that made a lot of impact on Dynamic Disc is the gosh, is this disc right for you? So that's when me and Eric, and then sometimes Denise, and sometimes some other person, we'd go out, and when a new mold came out, we basically would throw it. And you'd see how it throw for me, how it throw for Eric, and somebody else. And to me, I got so much feedback from people like, man, I just watched that video and I knew that disc was for me. Or I'm so glad you said that disc wasn't for you, so I didn't have to waste my money, but I got another disc that you liked. So that to me seemed to get the best feedbacks. And so that's the most rewarding when people say give positive feedback on a project that you work on.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's how I got I guess be introduced to you is through those videos. So that's great. I help run our team here. We have close to 200 people. I sit on social media all day long. I watch all these content creators. What advice would you have for a content creator getting in this, for lack of a better way to say it, oversaturated market
Yes.
right now? Like what advice would you have?
My advice would be you have to do it. There's just, and I'm sure they've heard it before, but if you want to make it in disc golf especially, but in just about any other sport, that's part of your brand. You are, and that's something that I used to tell Team Dynamic this when I would help them with social media is like, whether you like it or not, whether you're trying or not, you are a brand, right? The way you conduct yourself, basically just change out the word brand for reputation. That's what it is. It's what your reputation is. And so either it's going to be good, it's going to be bad, or it's going to be quiet, right? But you've got to, in this day and age, you've got to put yourself out there as a social media content creator. And then the other piece of advice I would give is don't worry about going viral. Don't worry about making the big views. Yes, it's nice to go viral. It'd be great. It'd be great to get Simon type of views, but it's more of it's a way of building a relationship with your audience. Think about that. How do I build a relationship with the people that watch my content? Don't worry about going viral. Don't worry about, you know, trends are nice. Don't worry so much about jumping on the next trend because trends come and go. It's more about building a relationship. How do I use the tools to build a relationship with my audience?
Yeah, for sure. Being unapologetically you and like just owning it is
Yes.
something that I always tell people. So, yeah, great advice there,
Right.
Bobby. Really appreciate that. There's a lot of different ways content creators can push out content now. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, all those different things. Do you have a favorite platform for content, or do you have a favorite platform that you interact with disc golf in?
I think right now my most favorite is Instagram, just because Instagram seems to have just about everything. You know, I can go live on Instagram. I can share background stuff on my stories. I can create content, long form content, if I for that, or short form content with Instagram Reels. I mean, the thing is that each component has its purpose as far
Yeah.
as growing your following and doing things. But I mean, a big strategy though is, of course, creating YouTube long form videos and then taking that information and disseminating it throughout the other social platforms. So you take, a 10-minute disc golf review video and you break it up into pieces and create little Instagram reels. Then you can create a blog article about your video, and that becomes a blog article or a newsletter. So, in my favorite is Instagram. The one that I start with is typically YouTube as far as going from idea to content creation to distribution.
Yeah, that's some great advice, and hopefully those young content creators out there, not just young, any content creator, I guess, is can go out there and kind of mimic that. So we mentioned earlier you do have a website, and I assume everyone's going to go to greatlakesdisc.com first. But let's say we don't have, one of the Clash discs in stock that they're looking for. how could they help and support you? What's your website?
Absolutely. So if you want to purchase some Clash discs, or if you're a store, or if you know a store that needs Clash discs in their store, the great starting point is cooldaddydiscgolf.com. That's where you can do some shopping, see if there's maybe a color that Great Lakes disc doesn't have, or something they don't quite have in stock. And if they don't have it in stock, tell them to go to cooldaddydiscgolf.com to get distribution, become a dealer, and I'll help you there. If you need any help with social media, I do freelance social media management. You can go to my website, cooldaddyslickbreeze.com, and it's got kind of my little portfolio there, and then of course a contact us page. If you just want to follow along and learn about my journey and what I do for Clash Discs, and I mean, I've heard it a million times. I know I got to work on my rounding, but if you're a casual player like myself that just likes to have fun on the weekend and you're just curious how does a certain mold throw for you, just search me out, Uncle Bobby Jr. on YouTube and Instagram, and maybe I'll help you learn what your next mold should be from Clash Discs.
That's awesome. Well, Bobby, I cannot thank you enough for your time today, and for what you've done for our sport and helping it grow. You really are one of the pillars as far as the growth of this sport goes, and I have no problem saying that. Come fight me in the comments. But speaking of comments, let's figure out a way to give this away.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so usually my go-to is what's your favorite dinosaur, but I can't say that because I've done it for like 7 in a row. So we're just gonna say go on to greatlakesist.com or Bobby's website, look at all the Clash molds, and then comment the Clash mold you would like to throw next, or the
Hmm.
Clash mold that you're currently throwing in your bag, and Bobby or myself will pick a winner and we'll get that shipped out to you from Great Lakes Disc. Bobby, anything else you'd like to add to this today?
No, it's been a great conversation. I love reminiscing. I love talking about disc golf and Clash Disc, and of course social media. So it was very, like I said at the beginning, it was flattering for you to reach out. I was humbled and honored to be on the show, and I really appreciate it.
Wow, thank you again. Remember to like and subscribe. Go to Bobby's YouTube channel. We'll link it below. Like and subscribe, all those things. Keep an eye on Clash Disc and keep it in the fairway, everyone.